It's not my destiny to be the one that you will lay with. So many reasons why I have to go but want to stay here. Sometimes I want to taste, but then I don't know what I'm saying. You are the angel, and I am the one that is praying. There is another love that I would rather be obeying. I see the ecstasy, and already I'm anticipating. I feel the deeper peace, and that deeper peace is penetrating. I've got the magic in me. I am complete is what I'm saying. I'm flying up so high, my purple majesty's displaying. Alright, that's enough of my purple majesty. I kind of like that song because, well, A, I think it's a good song, but B, I know exactly the point in the song where my voice can no longer do what he does. And I like singing it in the car alone because when I reach that point, no one wants to hear it. Alright, so today, 11:12 p.m., another difficult day for me. I mean, a fun day, but a difficult day in terms of this video. And, but I'm making it happen. Got my water here. Alright, I mentioned this video I wanted to do before. It's on an article by the CEO of a company called Wealthfront, an interesting company that deserves its own talk. But this, a friend told me about this article, May 2013. You need equity to live in Silicon Valley. And basically the article says if you want a house and a normal life here, then you need an infusion of several $100,000 sometime in your 30s to make it happen. And you could get that infusion maybe in the finance industry from a bonus, but for a lot of people in the tech industry, that infusion is going to come from equity in a company, stock options in a company. You join a company, the company accelerates, does really well, IPOs, and your equity options that you might get as part of your compensation package, they turn into a few $100,000, and huzzah, you can make life work here. So first thing I'm going to do is just read the article, make it easier for you to process. I'm going to also provide a link in the description. And then I'm going to discuss kind of ways of looking at this article and looking at this problem, I guess from my point of view, kind of integrating some of the budgeting and thinking and ideas that I've already covered. So you need equity to live in Silicon Valley by Andy Ratchliff, May 22nd, 2013. The other day, we were modeling our typical client spending when we realized something disturbing. An average Bay Area-based couple has to own equity in a business if they hope to send their kids to a good university and be able to retire well. Investing well alone can't get you there. Our analysis found you need to work for at least one company where your equity stake can generate at least a few $100,000 after tax to make your economics work in the Bay Area. The problem is the hole that opens up in a typical couple's budget when they are in their late 30s. Three big pressures converge then: the mortgage on your expensive Bay Area home, and the dueling needs to fund your retirement and your kids' college early so that you take advantage of compounding. That's why we say you need equity to live in Silicon Valley. Our example of a Silicon Valley couple. To do our analysis, we had to make a number of assumptions about a young professional Silicon Valley couple. We started with 30-year-olds. We assumed they earned a generous $250,000 per year and spend $60,000 per year on items not related to supporting children. The couple's income and spending grow at an inflation rate of 3% per year. Their income stops at age 65 when they retire, but they begin drawing Social Security at 70. They buy a house when they turn 30 for $1 million, financed with a $200,000 down payment and a $800,000 mortgage. The mortgage has a 3.75% fixed interest rate for 30 years. For context, a 3.75% interest rate is historically low. Federal and state taxes represent 45% of income, and savings are invested at 6% a year. The couple has two children, one when both are 30 and the other when they're 32. Each child costs about $22,000 a year to support. This number includes housing costs for the United States. In Silicon Valley, we think $22,000 is a cost without housing. The couple needs to save $1,100 per month for 18 years to afford to send each child to a private college. Alternatively, they could save $6,500 per child per year for 18 years to afford to send their kids to a public university. Unfortunately, families that currently earn $250,000 per year do not qualify for financial aid at most universities. Your top priority. For purposes of our analysis, we assumed the couple would first save for their kids' college rather than their retirements, because college costs come first chronologically, and sending your kids to a good school should be your top priority. You can see our spending assumptions and saving model in the spreadsheets linked below, and if you download them, you can insert your own numbers and play with the assumptions. I'm going to link to all of this stuff in the description of the video, by the way. Other savings is the amount left over after mortgage payments, real estate taxes, income taxes, annual spending, which includes adults and kids, and college savings. In other words, it is the equivalent to a family's annual profit or loss. Cumulative savings shows how the family's assets, aside from hard assets such as real estate, grow or decline over time. It is the amount of savings to date compounded at a constant assumed investment rate, we assumed 6%, plus the current year's savings. You'll notice a few disconcerting things from the spreadsheet. After putting aside what their kids need for college, our couple has nothing left for retirement savings by year 3. By year 4, the couple has negative cumulative savings, i.e. they owe money, even after giving up on their retirement savings plan. Cumulative savings remain negative through year 21. A year after their second child goes to college, the couple has enough left after expenses to save for retirement again. It could be worse. Some of these assumptions are aggressively generous. For example, we assume our couple could afford the $200,000 down payment on their home. We treated the entire annual mortgage payment as tax deductible for the 30-year mortgage period. In reality, a decreasing percentage of the mortgage payment is tax deductible over time, which leads to higher taxes and less savings. We assumed the couple would not spend any additional money on their children after they sent them to college, even though kids will still need spending money. A growing number of recent college grads move back home after school. 56% of all adults aged 18 to 24 are living with their parents, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. More conservative assumptions on these items would probably add at least $150,000 to the couple's cumulative spending. That means the couple would likely dig themselves a $420,000 hole rather than the $270,000 hole displayed in the spreadsheet. Add in the down payment on their house, and you're up to $620,000, and that's after tax money. To finance the shortfall, you could borrow some of the equity value you have built in your home, but that wouldn't make up the whole difference. It's also a high-risk strategy, as we learned during the financial crisis. If home prices drop, you end up owing more than your home is worth. Old definitions of a lot don't hold true. If the couple can come up with the money to plug the hole in their budget, then they will be able to ultimately afford to retire at their pre-retirement spending rate and send their kids to college and send their kids to good schools. But that assumes both members of the couple work until they are 65 with no breaks in between. An annual income of $250,000 seems like a lot of money, but home prices in the Bay Area are so high that the old definitions of a lot don't hold true anymore. You could buy a much less expensive home, but then you have to start worrying about the quality of your kids' schools and the length of your commute. All in all, it's a tough conundrum. As an aside, there is a chicken and egg argument about whether high real estate prices drive the equity culture in Silicon Valley. You could say the same about finance in New York or government in Washington, D.C. Are there other resources of a few $100,000? Some people are lucky enough to inherit money or get big gifts from their families. You might be in an industry like finance that pays bonuses that large. In Silicon Valley, your best chances of generating the cash you need to get you from here to there is to work for a company that offers an ownership stake that can become liquid in a reasonable period of time. You're most likely to earn a valuable equity stake if you follow our career advice and join a company with momentum early in your career. We encourage you to pay attention to the equity part of your compensation package, consistent with the industry standards we display in our compensation tool. If you were to join a mid-sized company with momentum, it's not out of the question you could receive a 0.1% stake that could be worth at least $1 million pre-tax to you if the company goes public. Joining a company that achieves great success will also put you in a position to later earn a much larger equity position at a hot startup that could earn you well more than that. Over 20 years, you should have at least 5 shots at a big outcome. Managed well, one or more of your equity stakes should be able to address the shortfall required to retire comfortably. If you live in Silicon Valley, you have to play the equity game. Not doing so will leave you with a hole too deep to dig out. We based our portrait on the observed income for our typical clients. 3-bedroom home prices within reasonable commuting distances of work, spending per child from a Wikipedia post, and savings required for college from our blog post 529 plans and savings for college. Investment return is typical for an average portfolio on Wealthfront. Cool. Okay, that's the article. Sorry I messed it up some. I'm really tired. Okay, so I'm not going to show you all the spending assumptions here. You can look at them yourself. I went through and I picked some that I thought were interesting, and I noted them here. And here's just some review about the numbers they mentioned. So 2 people making $250,000 a year together, pretty good. $1 million home, $800,000 mortgage, and their expenses. So let's sort these expenses kind of by amount and then look at them. They're assuming each person in the couple is going to spend $500 a month on a car, and clothing is going to be $500 a month. Housekeeper, $350 a month. Gardener, $200 a month. And no charitable giving. So in this article, they say your top priority should be sending your kids to a good school, and the definition of a good school is a private college. That is not supported by statistics. When you look at people who have good jobs, there are many that come from quality public schools. There are many that come from quality private schools. When you look at lists of return on investment for colleges, private schools don't come out that well. Georgia Tech, I think that's the number 1, and that's a public school. And with the Hope Scholarship in Georgia, it's a good deal. So I disagree with that about the article. Another thing that I disagree with, I think, of the article is it says you need equity to live in Silicon Valley. But I think you can live in Silicon Valley and spend a lot less than these people are spending. You can live in Silicon Valley without paying a housekeeper $350 a month or a gardener $200 a month. you can live in Silicon Valley without purchasing $1 million home. Especially the income is quite good for these two people. They have a $13,000 of take-home pay a month, and 38.7, almost 39% of their take-home pay is going to housing. And remember, I said before, our limit is 25. And if you really want to be wealthy, the limit's like 20. So, it's not hard to figure out that the mortgage is the totally insane part of this equation. Beyond these high expenses, you have this insane mortgage plus high expenses. So, of course, this $13,000 of take-home pay is not going to work out. I wanted to analyze this in a very specific way. What I wanted to say is, if we take this house out of the equation and we add in a more normal American home, and then we look at their residual income. So in other words, we kind of move them out of California. What would their income be if you backed out that home? In other words, there's a couple living in a more normal house somewhere in America, and they have the same amount of money left over after paying for housing that this couple has. How much would those people be earning, and what kind of expenses would they expect? So I picked a $250,000 house because I think that's a pretty reasonable house in a lot of places that are not California. And that translates to a $1,300 housing cost that this other couple has to worry about covering. So then I said, $13,000 take-home pay minus the California home you no longer have, plus the new home you have to take care of. And I think it comes out to about $9,931 take-home pay. And when you divide that between two people in a paycheck calculator, and then you look at what gross total income they need to be making each, you get to about $80,000 is kind of what somebody in a different state would need to make if they had a normal house to have the same amount of leftover money that these people have. So I ask myself, does someone making $80,000 somewhere else, do they pay $350 a month for a housekeeper? A government researcher, like a healthcare researcher, might make about $80,000. I don't think they have a housekeeper. Certainly not for $350 a month. This $500 a month for car would translate to about, if that's just the car loan, that's about a $28,000 car loan. You can get a $50,000 used BMW or a brand new Acura for that. And so would I expect an $80,000 researcher to be driving a used luxury car, kind of a new entry-level luxury car, instead of, I don't know, $10,000 used Accord? That seems more reasonable to me. So, I look at that, and when I kind of cut down these expenses in my mind, I retranslate the article. I say this article is saying that you need equity. You need this infusion of several $100,000 in your 30s, not to live in Silicon Valley, but to pay for all these ridiculous costs. Your monster truck bungalow. It's $5,000 a month. If we look at that $5,000 and we look at the insurance cost and we look at the mortgage interest cost, because those are the costs that you're not going to get back, it adds up to about $3,600. And when you take 28% of $13,000 of take-home pay, which, remember, 28% is what we need to be saving every year to prepare for retirement, you also get about $3,600. So I guess what I see is that kind of the waste that's in this house that they're paying is eating their retirement alive. And that's kind of what's going on here. So, I think the article is healthy, or I like the article, in that it does show you that making $125,000 a year with two people even though that is a lot of take-home pay every month, the costs will still eat you alive if you are living this kind of luxury lifestyle. And that's helpful for people to understand that the money just doesn't go that far and they're going to need to cut back. I don't agree with the article around, your most important priority should be sending your kid to some private school. That might reflect some biases of the author rather than anything real that's going on. So that's how I view this article now. I'm sure I viewed it a little bit differently several years ago. I do think it's a really interesting article, and I do think it's worth clicking through and reading it and checking out their thoughts on equity and so forth. I think it's really important to, as we talk through personal finance issues, to get other people's views and opinions and takes on things. Because every time we do this, it gives us a little bit more ability to view new information with a critical lens and to add some analysis that isn't kind of just naturally present in the article itself. All right, that's it for tonight's video. I'm going to upload it and put some links in the description. And I hope you enjoyed You Need Equity to Live in Silicon Valley. Have a good night.